Howdy, howdy there, fellers, and welcome to another episode of the Saved for the podcast. I was not counting on doing a southern accent as I was starting this episode, but it just kind of happened, it just kind of fell into place. The cowboy aesthetic, you can't escape it. All right. Welcome to
Pervades us
another.
all.
It pervades us all. Welcome to another Can of Worms episode for the Save for the Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Aaron, and I'm joined today by.
Generic cowboy.
Oh, damn, I was counting on Neiman, actually. We were going to have a debate this episode because
Ah,
that's what we promised the audience last time, but yeah.
I'm his stand-in. I'm generic cowboy. He couldn't be here today. He was off curing cancer. So he
Gotcha. Understandable.
brought in
As one
generic,
does. Yeah.
as one does. It's Wednesday
There you go.
afternoon. Might as
Yeah.
well solve cancer, you know? That's what
Might
he
as
was
well.
thinking.
Might as well. Indeed. Yeah, I don't think we're going to be able to do the debate, though, considering your sexy cowboy accent is too distracting. Like,
Oh, I
while
get
I'm talking MLA formatting, I might, like, accidentally dive into, like, cowboy hats or, dirty boots. I don't...
well, you know what I can do? I can go get my friend Neiman right now. He's actually in the next room over. Our lab is actually right next to the room where we record.
Okay,
So,
pausing this bit for a bit. Haha. But, yeah, pausing this bit for a bit, if you actually told me you were a different person and like, convincingly spoke in like a different tone of voice, I would probably believe that you weren't Neiman because your video quality is so bad.
yes, it is indeed bad.
Like, how can
Very
it be
bad.
this bad? I don't understand.
I honestly don't know so for the audience,
Who cannot see Neiman?
I'm using an app on my phone which turns it into a webcam.
Oh,
And
that's what it was.
historically, it's been great. It was literally up until yesterday that, the camera was working great, and then yesterday everything
And
just went
then
to poo-poo.
whoop-de-doo. Oh
Um,
boy, there he
so
goes.
I've been trying different things. The only thing that seems to be working is switching to the front camera, which then makes the quality great. But then you can see my face upside down. Woo! But then I have to switch it back because that's how it was
The
initially.
audience can't see any
Um,
of this.
can't see any of it, but it's better than visualizing something else,
Yeah, sure, yeah, it's
like
better.
I don't know, a hairy mushroom.
We're not talking about mushrooms. We're talking about MLA formatting and philosophy and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, wow, you're
Yes,
pumped.
indeed. That is okay. Let's come up with a prompt right now. Like, what specifically is this topic going to be?
So the question I imagine it to be would be should well actually there's a lot to uncover here. So how about we start with, first of all, should philosophy and other humanities be okay, well, let's just start with philosophy. Should philosophy be a graded subject?
Right.
And then we'll see what happens from there.
Okay.
Because I think that's an important thing to denote first and foremost.
Yeah.
So
It's a good place to start, I feel like.
yes,
Yes. Okay, so yeah. Neiman, considering you are the person in the suit and tie and I'm the person in the crappy, cheap sailing outfit, like sailing t-shirt, I
classic,
do
the classic.
the classics, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Would you like to begin?
sure. So it was actually on this point where we, well, actually, let me think about it again. Because initially, when I had my debate with my other friend,
Right.
we both came to the conclusion, right, that for that, which I am now reconsidering, that
Ooh,
first, that philosophy should not be a graded subject and should not be a subject that merits being assessed, per se. And basically, we were talking about how philosophy is philosophy, so it's a very broad, it's a very open subject,
Right.
and therefore should not be subject to, being judged, essentially, because
Right.
we were assessing, is this, when you take a look at math, right? Obviously, there's a right and wrong answer. It's a very black and white subject. So math is something that is worthy of being graded. However,
Yeah,
with
it's literally right. Yeah.
right. However, with philosophy, it's very broad and very open-ended. Now, the reason I'm reconsidering that, as I think about it now, is because I think about, again, it's a debate, so there's lots of room for lots of different avenues and whatnot. And, and if, because philosophy is something that, nowadays is taught at universities for the most part, I'm wondering if, perhaps a grade is in fact essential for a student, at least, a student who is learning philosophy. And before I go on further, I'd love to hear your thoughts, Aaron, while I fix my
Now,
camera again.
I mean, yeah, on like a surface level, yeah, philosophy is supposed to be like subjective, it's supposed to be something that you can sit down and discuss with a bunch of your friends and like, it's like it's more than a class. It's more of a way of seeing if students can put two thoughts together to like create an opinion for
Mm-hmm.
themselves, you know what I'm saying? So, and here's the thing, like some schools, some universities do it a bit differently, instead of focusing on the subject of philosophy itself, they focus on like, like logical stuff, like the ways an argument is like categorized or
Mm-hmm.
structured and that kind
Mm-hmm.
of stuff. But what well, what I'm thinking is, especially in subjects and classes where you have to present a topic, right, that you are putting together, right?
Mm-hmm.
And especially if it's a topic that you have experience with, you have firsthand experience with, right? I feel like grading it should be done differently. I'm not saying it shouldn't be graded, all right? That's not what I'm saying, because like we haven't gotten to a point where we can just like, cancel grading altogether and do substantial changes to a system that is so messed up that any kind of change can absolutely rock it. All right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and like here's my thinking, right? Instead of like having a single person, like decide the fate of a student of like based on what they have written regarding a certain subject, maybe it can be like a, like a committee or like a, maybe the students can have a say in how it should be graded, you know what I'm saying? And
Mm-hmm.
sure, there might be some, like, there might be arguments against that regarding, like how, um, like students might be like biased towards their fellow friends,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and like, choose to give them higher grades than they deserve or whatever. Like there might be many arguments on that kind of structure, but this is just a suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
So like yeah, I think it should be done differently.
Mm. Okay. Okay. I see what you mean.
Yeah.
So it seems like we're kind of on the general consensus, at
Yeah.
least on that front, of in terms of academic philosophy, yes, it should be graded, albeit perhaps differently, right? Or in a
Yes.
different way.
Yes.
Okay, great. So we got that sorted out, which is great
It
because
all goes downhill from here.
right, because usually how a lot of debates go is they don't define anything in the beginning, and so
Yeah.
if you don't do that, then the whole debate becomes pointless because
Oh yeah.
you'd be arguing about different things, right? So it's
Yeah.
good to identify these base, definitions we can agree on. So that's great
Yes.
that we're doing that. Okay. Um, since I asked the first question, do you have another prompt or question you want to pose?
Yes. So, gosh darn it, I had the question in mind just a second ago, and now it's just gone. Also, I swear to God, why are you making your camera do flips?
It's for some reason it's the only way I can make it work at the moment. Well, I could actually.
I'm gonna buy you a fucking webcam just for the sake of you stopping your bullshit right now.
Here's what I'll
Oh my
do.
gosh.
I'm gonna switch to my other webcam app, which seems to be working better at the moment. The
Okay.
only caveat is the filter makes it look so weird. Like it looks like I'm in a different universe. So let me
Interesting.
just.
Yeah, we'll see. Like, I sorry that. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, actually, this is really better.
It looks. Is it better? I
Like,
mean, I
yeah,
don't know. So
you kind of look like you're in one of those shows that like have a certain art style to it.
yeah,
Like can't think of anything right now, but Sin City, where like
yeah,
it
has
has like a twist to it. It's
the
black and
filter
white
thing.
with the blood and all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
Yeah. I
there
have
you go.
no idea why this app does this. Like this, I'm looking at my room and I'm looking at like this picture, and honestly, the other camera app was much more accurate to what my
Hey,
room
hey,
actually looks
hey,
like.
hey! It looks cool. It
Um,
looks sexy. Shut up.
but
All right.
if I look fine, whatever.
It looks
Yeah.
fine, man. Oh my god. All right.
Thanks.
But yeah. So the question I was going to ask you was, do you think MLA format is necessary in grading subjects regarding English, philosophy, literature, all that kind of stuff, where subjective topics are oftentimes, you know, graded using that?
Hmm.
Was my question to you.
So I don't think the actual format. So anything MLA, APA, Chicago style, anything like that. It's all just jibber jabber in
They're
my
all
opinion.
whack.
It's whack for sure. I think as long as you have the material in there, then it theoretically should be fine. Um, so, and when I say format in this context, because I think format can mean other things as
Yeah,
well. In
yeah,
format in this context, I'm specifically referring to how the actual like page like physically looks and how the text is formatted on the page. Um, and if you ask me, if it's single spaced, double spaced, whatever, as long as you can read it and the subject and the content is there, I personally am fine. I think the reason, standardized formatting exists is to, kind of, I hate using the word in the, or the definition, or the word in the definition, but to standardize or to basically make it so that it's as easy as possible to read, or at least facilitate the process as much as possible
right.
for graders or for whoever is assessing the paper. Because when you have to, when you get into the realm of fancy fonts and some people have different spacing and some people are putting
Yeah,
their names at the end of the paper, or maybe they're not even putting page numbers, right? Then you sort of get into the realm of how the heck am I supposed to grade this if everyone's is looks different, right? and,
right.
and you can make the argument for and against, right?
Hmm.
So that's my stance on that. So I think it's important to have in a uh in a more academic setting, I guess, is where it'd be more important. Outside of an academic setting, it really does not matter as long
Oh
as it's
yeah.
legible.
Yeah.
Um, because newspapers, they're not going to like follow a format, except for the columns and all that.
Yeah, all the
But
like stuffing stuff in
Mhm.
to the fine print. Aside from that, and even now, like with the, emergence of, like the preference for internet and all that kind of stuff, like even that is getting a bit wonky, you know?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, but I do have a qualm with is uh, format in the other sense, in kind of the more syntactical side of things. And what I mean by
Ooh.
that is,
Now this is a debate. We're getting to the like the fancy words. Ah.
wow,
Syntactical. Oh yeah, so exotic, so American.
wow, dancing debate, Aaron. I love it. My
Yeah, there
gosh.
you go.
Um, yes, syntactical. I know. Um, so when that is where I have more of a qualm with grading, and where the height of our debate was in my previous debate with my other friend, because
Mhm.
she was in favor of just you know well, first off, we agreed right in our first debate, philosophy shouldn't be graded in the first place. However, it is. So now what, right? Which is what we were debating about, right?
Right.
And so she was saying, just it shouldn't be, it should be graded simply based on content. And I disagreed. And I currently still disagree, mostly. Well, 50-50. Um, I do think content is important. However, I do think how you format your argument is just as important and is something that is easily assessed, or easier to assess than content, for example.
Right.
And she was saying, because philosophy is purely a, as you said, it's like something you talk with your friends, and uh, philosophy doesn't necessarily, you don't necessarily like need a major to like become a philosopher and whatnot. It just requires
Right.
that you think and you have ideas to share, right?
Yeah.
And so she was saying, as long as you have the idea, then you get the A. And I think, that while yes,
You
content is
know,
important and ideas are important, you need a certain format and you need a cohesive argument in an essay that can be graded. And that was mostly the point of our discussion, was what in philosophy can be graded, right?
right.
Um, so I was talking about format, right? If you have a cohesive argument that makes sense, it has, thesis and, your topic and your conclusion and, something that makes sense, then that's something you can get an A for. Now, if you take two examples, right? And if you, say, for example, Avatar, since we both know Avatar, right?
Sure.
Uh, I'm using it because we both know Avatar
No,
pretty
no,
well,
no,
so
no.
the
I
so the
understand. I
example would be more
understand.
clear.
Yeah.
Um, so if someone, gave the argument, hey, I think Avatar is the greatest show ever. That's an opinion, right?
Right.
And so obviously you need an argument to back up that opinion. Now, when you say Avatar is the greatest show ever, uh, an A paper would, kind of divide it, and they would have like different points, right? So Avatar is the greatest show because it has great romantic arcs. It has a really compelling story. Um, are we going to debate about Avatar now?
No, 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 no. Like, I understand this isn't like a example, but like you saying that and considering, Avatar mostly features fucking children, it's like, well, like what about the romantic arcs, bro? All right, but yeah, I understand. It's an example.
It
Yeah.
is an example. I can get into Avatar another time. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, that's not the topic for today.
But
Haha.
so yeah, the points in theory would be, it has great romantic arcs because I don't know, it does something innovative that has never been done before in literature. As an example, right? I'm not saying that's actually
Yeah.
happened in Avatar, but let's
Gotcha.
just
So
say
you agree that Sakae is in fact the most superior ship?
I still don't think so, but
We'll get to it. We'll
we'll
get
get
to
to
it.
it.
Yeah.
And so there's that, and then also compelling villains that you empathize with, and therefore is something that's new and creative with the idea of villainy. So
Right.
that would be, if you can explain those points and provide evidence, like, oh, for like the villainy point, Zuko is a case in point, right? That
Right.
he's a perfect example of villain turned hero. The arc, is perfect. All this XYZ took 3 seasons to do it, therefore showing the length of time and the amount of dedication it takes to come to that point. We see
Yeah.
like his, all that. Now that I would call that an A paper, right?
Okay.
If it were up
Yeah.
to me. Now, if another person said Avatar is the greatest show ever because I think so, and it's my idea. Now, I would say, okay, where are your points, right? And if they have no points, right, or if they have points but they kind of organize it, for example, like Avatar is the greatest show ever because they have really good villains, they have really good romantic arcs, and they have really good fight scenes. Now, those sentences said nothing about the show at all other than it was good. Now, I would probably call that like a C, maybe D paper, depending on how they explain it, right? And I think clearly, at least in my opinion, in this case, one is clearly more cohesive and clearly has a better argument than the other, provided that they have, evidence that actually explains points and actually does that. Going back to my point of as long as you have cohesive points and cohesive arguments, then that is something you can assess, right? Because you can't assess something like, uh, something super controversial, right?
Question.
Yes.
Do you think that like what you're talking about, a comprehensive explanation featuring examples and, like justifications for their points is tied to the MLA format?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Then we're agreed.
okay, great.
Good debate. All right. See y'all next week.
Yeah. I don't think I don't think at all that it would be tied to MLA format.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this much, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think from a teacher perspective, I definitely would prefer if everything was, standardized, because then that way you can look for things really easily, like their name is there, their page number is there, all that, which I think just makes grading as easy and as efficient as possible, which,
Sure.
you can make the argument, right? In our capitalist kind of, just get kids in and, assembly line kind of, getting
Yep.
kids educated as
Yep.
fast as possible kind of thing is a different argument. But for the purposes of getting grading as efficiently as possible, I think standardizing it is in that regard better. Um,
All right.
yeah.
So here's the thing, though. All right. Oftentimes, when we enter a classroom where we have to write stuff, essays, all that kind of stuff, even though we're told to write in MLA format, teachers make us read stuff that aren't standardized. And that kind of creates a problem where we have examples that aren't standardized, but an objective that is standardized. And see, here's the thing. How do you expect someone to read something that isn't bound by a single format
Mm.
and then make them bound essentially to that format? All right. Now, here's the thing. All right. I had no idea that MLA format was a thing, like an actual thing that people used without question, all right, until I came to America. Because in Turkey, it was more guidelines than anything else. All right. I mean, sure, there's some controversy in me saying that because literally no teacher wanted us to say that out loud. But that was the case. All right. If a student managed to write a comprehensive essay without getting that, beginning, supporting paragraph, conclusion, that kind of format down, all right? Even if they didn't use that and still managed to create a cohesive argument, then they still got a good, they still got good grades,
Right.
right? That's how I managed to bullshit my way through like 6 years of English classes without having to learn about MLA format.
Yeah.
Only when I came to America and found out that, oh, I have to use this bullshit of a thing, then I realized that this was something that was used in every single classroom because they couldn't teach kids how to write a comprehensive argument, essay without it. All right. Now, here's the thing. This is not me saying, oh, MLA format is bad and we shouldn't use it at all. No, this is me saying that we should use it on beginners who don't exactly know, who can't exactly create the argument in their mind and just paint it across the canvas perfectly. All right. I'm not saying we shouldn't use it at all. I'm saying those kinds of people should use it. All right. What I'm saying is not every student has to be bound by it. All right. This is the no kid left behind argument all over again. All right. Like if you hold all the kids back just so we can catch up one or two of them, then we're gonna have a generation that's ill-educated, doesn't trust science, and just cannot, for the love of them, all right, write a comprehensive essay without making it a god-awful boring experience for both them and the readers. All right, like I'm getting excited because I'm out of tea. All right? So yeah,
Great.
and
Great.
so yeah, yes, I do understand the point that teachers are trying to make. Yes, I do, sympathize with them. I do understand that their jobs should be easier. All right, be it and that's a whole other issue. All right, we should pay teachers more. We should allow them more comforts for themselves. All right, we should do anything possible to make education a better process and not just a streamlined, road to failure. All right, we should do improvements. It's just that MLA formats and MLA formatting is not an improvement when it's used so excessively. All right?
Gotcha. Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? Because it kind of descended into rambling for a second there.
Yeah. So, correct me if I'm wrong. What I'm getting from your argument is that MLA should not be a huge factor in
writing
So it should not be a huge factor. But however, it is.
It is important. I'm not saying it doesn't have its uses. I'm just saying it should be more used as guidelines rather than, strict rules that you can, lose 20% of your grade to.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
because I have experienced both, both types of teachers, those who don't care about the MLA formatting and just, focus on the comprehensive essays, and those who really do care about the MLA formatting and will take off half of your points if you don't use it correctly. So, I've seen both sides, and to be honest, I prefer the guidelines option, my guy.
Yeah. So then I think for the most part, we're in agreement with that in that regard. I think I have yet to have more experience kind of writing in the field. I actually just had an interview for a research lab. And so I'm thinking that there's going to be a lot of writing involved And
Right.
and so I know for research, at least, there's lots of rules with kind of standardizing how you or the formatting of a research paper and whatnot, which I know it varies from major, varies from university, from department. So there's a whole bunch of different things.
Oh yeah.
And you know, I think standardization is you know, is a topic all on its own.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but in closing up on the MLA thing, I think we're mostly in agreement then of yes, the content is what should be most graded, I think. I mean, sure, you can take off like a single point for bad formatting, but other than
It's
that,
formatting.
yeah, yeah. Um,
It's formatting.
eh,
None of
eh,
my
eh, eh.
has.
Make sure
All
you
right.
format your mouth,
Yeah, there you go.
unlike I
Ooh.
did. Um, but yeah,
Are any of our mouths formatted?
are any of them? Who knows?
Can we really call ourselves MLA?
Who knows? Or APA or Chicago
Or
or
APA or
you
Chicago.
know.
Yeah, there you go.
But
Now,
yeah,
Neiman, I have a question for you.
please.
Did you time this?
Yeah, I'm timing
Okay,
it.
cool,
Yeah,
because I didn't.
yeah. We're at 30 minutes.
Oh, awesome. All right, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought this
Um.
was gonna be like, the Sakae argument all over again, where I get like
Oh yeah. That's totally
slow.
what.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, we didn't even finish that argument, by the way. Like
Yeah.
we can agree on like improving society. We cannot agree on cartoon children. You know, we're fucking
Yep.
teachers, aren't we?
Yeah.
Shipping
We
our
really
shipping
are.
our two, shipping our students, shipping our animated students. Yeah, there we go.
We really are. I bet teachers do sit in the teachers' lounge and ship students. I
Oh
feel like
yeah,
it's a
like
thing they would do.
I feel like, among the arguments they have, like they can discuss politics and all that kind of stuff all they want, and they're still gonna be civil. But once it comes to shipping wars, oh fucking hell.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck do you think that Jake is good with Amanda? He's a piece of shit! Like that kind of like I just imagine that happening. I'm
Yeah.
sorry if I'm sorry to any Jakes.
Or
Especially
Amanda's.
especially Jake from State Farm. You sexy beast. All right.
Yeah.
Anyway, though.
The ASB president with the band camp president? No, it can't.
Oh,
Can't happen.
forbidden love.
It's
Oh my
forbidden.
goodness. Oh yeah.
Ever.
Oh,
They cannot cross paths. They're from different worlds.
the students UN.
Yeah.
The students UN project president and the drama club president. Oh
No,
my goodness.
it can't.
Enemies
One's
to lovers arc.
yeah. One's from a world where your wildest imaginations can be acted out, and another is from a world where danger lurks around every corner and problems
Yes.
need to be solved. But how do you mix the two? How can imagination mix with such
Plot
dangerous
twist, it's
conflict?
actually gay romance. Dude, oh my
Boys love.
gosh. I just imagine the amount of spicy discourse that happens in the teacher's lounge as soon as gay shipping starts. Because oh shit, that
Oh man.
has to be like an experience.
Gen Z is teachers, man. Gen Z
Gen
is
Z as
teachers.
teachers, Gen Z as teachers. Oh yeah.
Period.
The, gosh, man.
Good stuff. Good
Good
stuff.
stuff though. Good stuff. I'm glad
Um,
we I'm glad I'm glad we agreed on a topic fucking finally.
yeah. I honestly, because I realized in my previous debate afterwards that like that debate went on for like 2.5 hours probably.
Right.
And I think in all honesty, most of it just came from a lack of either of us having, ironically enough, cohesive arguments,
Mhm.
which I think was the funniest thing of all of it. Because I realized about halfway in that we were really just being circular with each other. We were kind of
Yeah.
like, yeah, I get your point, but point A. Oh, well, I get point A, but point B. will I get point B, but point A? Will I get point A, but point B? And so we were kind of just
Gotcha.
doing that
Yeah,
for like
there you
an hour
go.
and a half. And
Yeah.
we really, so then I finally understood afterwards, like, oh, the argument must have been, what the heck are you saying? Right? Because we really, I don't think we really understood what
Oh God.
each other's arguments were. So
Yeah, there you go.
that's
Just
why
had it.
that went on for like 2.5 hours. But I totally thought you were talking about like kind of just
Let's abolish grading altogether.
yeah, I totally
Libertarian dream.
that's totally what it I didn't think exactly that, but I totally thought you
Right.
were going in the direction of philosophy and English should just not be graded. It's a super freeing, like just if the idea is there, you get an A kind of thing. Because that's what I argued about last time, and that's what my intuition was. But
Right.
I'm glad I was wrong.
Did you
So
just assume my argument? All right.
I did. I did assume your
Yes.
argument. I'm sorry.
Oh God.
Sorry.
I feel so offended. All right. But yeah, I'm glad I'm glad neither of us rambled for too long and we actually managed to like get through this argument. This wasn't really a debate. This was more of an argument, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Dude, oh my gosh.
I'm
I
sure there are.
remember.
Yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just
Go
gonna say.
ahead.
Oh, fine. I was just gonna say. I'm sure there are plenty of other topics we could debate on,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I guess philosophy formatting is not
Yeah.
one of them.
I mean, yeah, we pretty much agree on that. Yeah, there should be some change to how it's graded, but aside from that, it kind of has something to do with, like wherever there's, a system that affects, more than a handful of people, it should be democratized, so, like, but yeah, like I really don't want to get into that at this point. I'm glad we managed to stay on topic, even though we got some, input from other arguments as well. But yeah, I guess this is why oftentimes, debates are non-comprehensive because a single topic is tied to so many different other topics that you just cannot go go through it, so
Yeah,
instead of having a debate where it's a battle of ideas, it's just a battle of evidence and circumstance. So like you can't really tell which side is right and which side is wrong. So it just ends up being like a political talk show where it's all showmanship essentially. I don't know where I was going with this. I don't know.
no,
Fucking know.
I totally agree. I think if you look at any political debate nowadays, it's all jargon and all who's the worst candidate rather than who's the best, right? And so
Oh, I know why. I know why I moved down this path now. Like, I just realized it's because I saw someone reacting to a classical Abbey, like a video.
I've not seen it.
Classic Abby is Ben Shapiro's sister, I do believe, and she's been like buying up ad spaces all the freaking time. Like, conservative woman, this is our time. Like,
Gotcha.
how to be a classical woman. Like, it sound like I've discussed this type of thing before. Like, we've already got through this. Like, I do believe it was Girl Defined that we discussed last time.
Yes, we
Yeah.
did.
And now it's just it sounds like it's empowering women at first, but then you realize, oh no, it's like find your identity in your husband or in God or in whatever the fuck,
Yeah.
No, but this time you're allowed to show shoulders.
Ooh.
Ooh,
Upgrade.
ooh,
That's an upgrade.
neoconservatism getting spicy. Ooh. But yeah, Jesus.
Yeah, it really do be like that.
Oh, and the reason why why that tied to that was because, like, she kind of remarked at some point about how the only reason you would lose a debate is because you didn't have enough evidence at that point, not because your opinion was wrong. And like, I heard that, and it was like, it's sort of like, huh? Like, there are so many of these videos that hint towards the protests that are going on right now and hint towards the movement, and they don't explicitly say, oh, this is wrong. Oh, that is wrong, because they know they're going to get canceled if they say anything like that. And it's like,
Yeah.
dude, you've already picked your, like, your entire identity. You've already based your entire, like, brand on conservatism. You might as well go big or go home. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, she literally said, like, being a trad wife is about being calm and collected. And it's obvious, like, she was hinting towards the protests that are going on, because apparently demanding that you would be treated as a human being and not just some animal to get run over or shot at, right, is too much and is really aggressive and is really childish, right? Like, I really do not understand the point that people try to make when they say it is what it is, and this is, by the way, a reference to Donald Trump. All right, like, it is what it is, like, that's the way the world works, like, like,
Mm-hmm.
what the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
No. Like, accepting the way that the world works is the most childish thing you can do, because as a child, you can literally do nothing to change that.
Yeah.
Like,
Absolutely.
invoking change is literally a part of growing up. What the fuck are you talking about? Okay, I need to calm down for a second. Where's my water?
I actually want to add on that and say that I was listening to a TEDx, or no, just regular TED podcast recently,
Mm-hmm.
and they had a author slash poet, and I think his name was like Clint Smith, who is an African American poet and author, and
Right.
he talked about how you know uh, the world is socially constructed, and therefore it can be it's not an exact quote, but he said something along the lines of, the world is constructed and therefore it can be deconstructed and rebuilt, right?
Yes.
And that's not the exact quote, but it's something similar to that. And he was talking he mentioned that in a letter to his son, or his future son at the time, because when he wrote it before his son was born, but
Right.
he's planning on giving this letter to him. I think, I can't remember if it was like a symbolic letter, or like for a poem, or if it's an actual letter. I think it's an actual letter that he's planning on sending, like when his son is older. But he basically talks about what it's like being a black boy in America, right?
Right.
And he mentions that quote, and I kind of like what you were saying earlier, right? uh saying that this is how the world works. Well, I guess technically you're right. That is how the world works. It works in this
Right.
way that we are able to change how the world works, because that's how the world works. It's that
Yeah.
we can change how the world works. So, I think it's really immature and childish to say that that's how the world works, right? Because
Yeah.
it's the conservative mindset to conserve, right? And
Right.
that isn't always the best case, right?
It
in
really is not. Yeah.
in many cases, it is almost always better to at least consider changes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially when it benefits other people other than yourself, right? Because
What a concept.
in more cases than not, we see conservatives having more concern for their own group and themselves rather than others, which I think
Yep.
is the most divisive thing in America at the moment,
Oh yeah.
among other things, right?
Yeah. So yeah, among the Sakae discourse and all that kind of controversy surrounding it, apparently.
Yeah, apparently.
Apparently.
Apparently people think that Sokka and Suki are the good, I guess the good ship in Avatar. What's up with that? I don't know. I don't know
Are
who would think
you
that, but you know.
are you cussing with me?
No,
Are you cussing
no,
with me?
no.
All right.
I would never. I would
Okay.
never. I'm just saying, people who, think
Oh, you're just
that.
saying.
No,
Okay.
I'm just
Uh-huh.
saying. I'm just saying.
So you're just
Right.
saying that you're surprised that people think that way, huh?
Yeah,
All
I'm
right.
just
Because
confused as to how
apparently,
they think
right?
that way.
Because apparently a relationship built on trust and non-drama is something that's not worth considering and unrealistic, apparently, huh? It's almost as if this kind of mindset feeds to the toxicity surrounding relationship these days.
I'm just
Huh.
saying. I'm just saying. It makes for a more entertaining show, if you ask me.
Oh,
If you ask
oh,
me.
oh, 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 okay. It makes for a more entertaining show. Right, as if we already didn't establish the fact that this kind of disruptive behavior in relationship on mass media doesn't make the audience cringe and doesn't make us want to stop watching and just take a walk around before resuming to watch because how cringy and unrealistic it is, as if we don't want a relationship that isn't toxic, huh? Because we thrive on the drama, huh? Is that what you're saying, Neiman?
Okay, well, I will say, sometimes toxicity is entertaining to watch. I will just leave it at that. Now, am
Listen
I
up, you
advocating for it?
cartoonishly tinted bitch.
Am I
Listen.
am I advocating for toxicity? No, not at all. I think it's horrible to have. Does it make
Uh-huh.
for a great show? Yes, absolutely.
Listen. Okay. I'm bringing it back for a second for the sake of the argument. All
Great.
right. So, you're saying that toxicity makes a show more entertaining. Is that it? Like, it adds to the drama, it, adds to the suspense. However, what I'm thinking is forced toxicity really takes something away from the show, right? The fact of the matter is, if you throw a wrench in an engine, all right, just for the sake of character building, all right, you're a fucking dumbass. You're not invoking a storyline. You're not creating, a comprehensive narrative that revolves around. No, you're just being a fucking dick. All right, and here's my thinking. All right, like this was literally a children's show in the first place. So the fact of the matter is, not adding toxicity, I think, was the better route that they chose. All right, because there was already so much toxic relationship that had to be resolved, all right? So a toxic relationship wasn't really on their radar, all right? In fact, a non-toxic relationship to show that people can, in fact, grow off of each other and build themselves as a person without having to experience any of the drama that comes with it, even though there are some frustration and there are some tiny events that might create drama among their characters and that doesn't affect the story that they can move past, still makes for a good relationship. All right, I really don't know what else to say. It's just a good relationship that is a good thing to show children.
Okay, yes. Okay, so I think we can agree that for the purposes of a children's show, that yes, I think I agree that the route that they took for a children's show
Not
Which
even just for a children's show, all right? It's just like a good thing to have there, all right?
oh, okay, yes, I agree that it is a good thing to have. Now, do I think all relationships are perfect? No. And I think that's kind of mostly where my, I guess, desire for not, I think toxicity is a little bit, at least in my opinion, I think it's a little dramatic or over
Right.
dramatic to call it toxicity specifically. I think tension is a more accurate word I would use to describe kind of what I'm describing. In
That's
that, I
still
think
okay, please continue. Sorry.
Uh, it's all good. It's all good. To finish, I was going to say that I think leading people to believe that relationships are perfect and without tension, I think is more unhealthy than throwing in a little a tiny wrench, right? Because I think
Right.
when you have that conception that oh, this relationship is working out perfectly, then then what's the point, right? Then people have these misconstrued ideas. If we're talking about right what people get out of the relationship, or sorry, if we're talking about what people get out of the show, then under that lens, yes, I think you should throw in a little bit of a wrench to show people that this is a regular relationship, right? Because we know that in real life, most relationships don't end up
Okay.
happy-go-lucky and whatnot.
Okay, here's my response to that. All right.
Please.
Now, I think this is a sort of after effect of how, desensitized we've become regarding toxic relationships or any kind of, relationship with some level of, as you might put it, tension in them. All right. Now, here's the thing. Their relationship didn't start off all happy go lucky. All right?
Right.
Sokka was a sexist piece of shit, and like Suki was a stone cold badass who beat his fucking ass. All right? So, like, it didn't start off that way. All right? Then there was a huge period of time where they were separated, and when they did come back together again, we saw that, that separation didn't, like, you know, like wasn't exactly good for them, all right? Sokka had seen some shit. Suki was still her stone cold badass self, all right? And while Sokka was trying to help Suki, he ended up, making her feel like she was constrained, all right? Like the relationship did have its tension. We saw it. All right, the fact that when they officially became a relationship, like the fact that there wasn't much wrenches, all right, like as you might put it,
Hmm.
or as I might put it, like large scale catastrophic relationship ending events thrown in there for story flavor, all right, doesn't mean that the relationship was without its faults, all right? Like it was practically a long distance relationship without any of the internet connection involved. All right. So here's the thing, all right? They became a couple ish, sort of, all right? Like they professed their feelings for each other,
Hmm.
like at the end of the episode, The Serpent's Pass, all right? Then there was a huge period of time where they were separated, and we saw that they cared about each other even when they were separated, all right? Suki cared about the well being of Team Avatar and like how and like we saw how she helped Appa get back up on his feet, which was
Hmm.
really cute and really emotional, by the way. And we saw how Sokka was super fucking concerned about Suki's well-being when he found out that Azula had taken her place and infiltrated the Earth Kingdom. All right, we
Hmm.
saw that they still cared about each other even when they were separated without any kind of way of contacting each other. And
Yeah.
when it all came to head during the prison escape episode, all right, we saw how much of a team they were. All right,
Yeah.
so here's the thing. We already moved past that. We already gotten through the trials and the tribulations. All right. So it just boggles my mind that we can't just have this proper functioning relationship because of how desensitized we've become to the toxic relationships. All right, like, yes, I do understand that there are relationships where people don't talk to each other and that really drives them apart, all right? Yes, we have seen all the different colors of the bullshit relationships where people feel like they have to stay together for the sake of their families or for the sake of their children or for the sake of their friends or for the sake of not making things awkward during the group dynamic or whatever the fuck. All right, we've seen all that. So can't we just have a single fucking relationship where they don't drive each other apart for the sake of plot? All right, like they like here's the thing. Sokka has humor. Suki has compassion. They both have understanding for each other. We've seen that they have a healthy sex life. What the fuck do we want from this?
Yeah, no, I understand where you're coming from. I think so. I think we can agree that the trajectory of the relationship, I think, was well done. I think as you've mentioned, we've seen the trials and the tribulations.
It just was too straight shooting. There should have been more spikes and flames and
I think there should have been
and
a more
romantic love interest. Yue should have come back in her human form and created a love triangle that ended in Sokka getting castrated.
Yes. All great ideas.
Yeah.
You should get on that fanfic.
There you go.
Yeah, I think the whole like Yue thing, not really sure why it was she seemed like a foil to me. So I really don't know why she was involved in the whole like Sokka thing. I would have been fine if she was just the character that turns into the moon. I don't really know why, I guess for entertainment purposes to make her the love interest for Sokka for like the first, latter half of the season of the first season.
See, that's the thing though. Like it helped in his character development. All right, see, hear me out for a second. Like, let's talk about the Yue arc for just a moment before getting back on beating your fucking ass because you don't believe in Sokka x Suki. So here's the thing, all right? Now, we are introduced to Yue as, oh boy, pretty, oh boy, princess, oh boy, Sokka is looking at her longingly, right? And he approaches her because he thinks she's pretty, right? Like,
yes.
we agree on that?
Yes.
Now, as time goes on, like it's implied that the gang actually spends a hot minute in the North Pole. All right, so it is like this isn't just a 3-day love arc that ends with oh boy, poor Sokka, oh ho ho, let's get him back to comedy relief. Like no, like this is in fact a huge a extended period of time, right? Mm-hmm. And we see how Yue is like essentially constrained by her, obligations to the country and tradition and all that kind of stuff. We see how like all of that is just like, keeping her in. And we see that Sokka is actually sympathetic to her because of that. All right. Mm-hmm. Now this was here's the thing. Sokka started out as a fucking traditionalist sexist bitch ass, right? And now he's actually there we go.
Welcome.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Forgot to pause the recording.
You know what? I did it purposefully this time. You want to know why? It's easier to just cut it and leave the timer on, because if I pause it, then I also have to pause the timer. And then the timing gets messed up when I cut it later on. So
okay, yeah, I understand what you're saying. But yeah, sorry about the abrupt little thing. I am once again experiencing internet troubles. Oh boy, in character. All right, but yeah, as I was saying, we Sokka started off as a sexist piece of shit, and we saw his slow process into becoming somewhat woke, all right? And seeing Yue in that situation, like seeing tradition played out in such a real way, changed him, I do believe, all right? Like, it made him a bit less traditional and a bit more pragmatic. That really helped, by the way, during his Legend of Korra arc, where he became a politician and all that kind of stuff, all right? Like, I believe that's kind of related to
Okay.
that,
Yeah. Okay.
right? Like, we literally see his ingenuity, right, triumph over his like conservative side. Oh boy, we're getting into real life politics. All right, but see, but that's exactly the point. All right, like UA wasn't just a thing that happened in the past. Oh boy, ha ha ha. My girlfriend turned into the moon. That's rough, buddy. No, it's not just that. All right, it's it's different. It changed him, goddammit. Like, I have
Okay.
no other way of putting it. Like,
Yeah.
it's literally so substantial to his story. All right? Like, we literally see it affecting him in different times. All right? Like, whenever, like, okay, here's the thing. I have been on record stating that whenever Sokka went through a major character development moment, it was it was while he was on his knees, right? I have said that.
Right. 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 Right.
Aside from that, whenever he has an emotional development scene, it's always him, like, it's always with the moon, somewhat related. All right, it's always either in the background or like we see it shining on him. Like, it's always there. All right, so, and like, even though he might be haha funny man, like, we can see it affecting him. All right, there's no other way of putting it. It's not just an arc thrown in there for flavor. Haha, funny man, lost a girlfriend. Haha, he'll stay single forever. No, it's a part of his storyline where he grows as a person. Okay, like, that's
Yeah.
all I have to say for that.
Okay. So I agree that I think UA was a one of the humbling experiences for Sokka, which I agree was a huge, that, as you said, we see it affecting him throughout the entire series. So
Yes.
it's a very substantial part of him as a character, right? And
Yes.
now, I don't think it had. I think my problem with Yue is with how it affected his relationship with Suki, which I think was very little, in my opinion. I think it had very little bearing, in my opinion, with kind of, at least from what we saw in the series, right? And I know you mentioned in
Serpent's Pass, literally.
yeah. I know you
He's
mentioned,
afraid of losing Suki like he did with Yue.
right,
We've gone through this.
right.
Listen.
Which I think is the only thing that affected him. Like, that's the only thing that was mentioned that really had a huge bearing on the relationship, which I think there could have been more, in my opinion, that could have been, I think, more developed rather than 5 minutes in the entire series.
Oh,
Um,
so he's not allowed to acknowledge Suki as an independent person and move on with his character.
I do think
Okay, I see.
I do think he can move on as an independent, and recognize Suki as an independent character. But I
Mhm.
think what makes relationships in any show interesting is how it affects other relationships. And I don't think that the particular relationship between Sokka and Yue really had a huge, more of an effect other than what was mentioned in Serpent's Pass, which I think was the one of the pitfalls, I would say, of really all the relationships in the series, is that they were really kind of just self-contained relationships that really kind of affected just the characters involved in the relationship, but really had no bearing on the show whatsoever, other than to, I guess, make the characters more relatable.
Literally 80% of rescue arcs was somehow a result of a miscommunication. Like, oh boy, the group is having an argument. Oh boy, one of them is isolated because they decided to walk off somewhere to cool off. Oh, they're getting kidnapped? What a fucking surprise. Literally, it has all the bearing on the show. Bro, did you even watch it? Did you even watch it?
Well, yes.
You're
okay,
not
so
a true Avatar fan.
it did have a bearing, but I'm saying is, like, if we take, for example, the Korra and Aang arc, the only thing that particular relationship had on the show,
Korra and Aang?
or sorry, what's her
What?
face? Katara.
The
I don't
forbidden
know what
ship?
the two avatars together. My goodness.
What?
One's 12 and one's 17. There's nothing wrong with that.
When they die, they join the Avatar orgy.
Oh yes, it's one
Oh,
big.
God.
Just, hey, come on in. You can
Come on in, Korra.
have fun with all of your past lives.
Oh,
That's
God,
fun.
disgusting. Why would you bring such a concept in this holy house of God?
Well, if you ask me, that would spice up and make the show more into. No, I'm kidding.
Disgusting. Absolutely vile.
Katara and Aang was what I was referring to. Sorry.
Right.
I apologize for anyone who's confused. I totally thought I was saying Katara. Katara was in my mind. But Katara and Aang, right? The only time that really had a bearing on the show was the whole Avatar state thing, which, I think was not really, or I think could have been, or I think it was a good thing to include, but I think there could have been more instances like that that we could see in the show where, Aang or Katara have to decide between, the world or their lover, essentially.
What the fuck? That's not how shit works, though. What?
I would love to hear your counter argument on that.
So you're telling me it should have been Ozai grabbing Katara by the throat and being like, I have this button that's going to explode the Earth Kingdom unless you let me kill Katara. Like, or wait, more of a Mark Hamill voice, like, I'm going to... No, that's not Mark Hamill.
It's like,
I'm going to kill Katara unless you decide to kill her yourself. Like that kind of thing? Is that it?
I think they're not exactly that, because I do think that's a little cheesy, right?
Here's the thing. Yeah, it is cheesy. What you're talking about is so fucking cheesy. Mozzarella is suing you. Okay, here's the thing. Stakes are usually not that high, and when they do go that high, writers oftentimes don't know how to deal with that. All right, like it's usually just thrown in there for the sake of, oh, let's get through this episode because we couldn't think of anything else. Haha, their lover is in trouble and the BBEG has revealed themselves and they're gonna destroy the world unless they do this and do that, and haha, they're gonna leave their lover behind. Haha, and it's like, what the fuck? How did we get here? Why is there a convoluted scheme like this? All right. And we do see, by the way, Zuko using Aang's affections to Katara against him. All right. We do see that happen. So it literally makes no sense for you to say, oh, the stakes should have been higher. I didn't feel them in my gut. I didn't feel, the stakes should have been so high. It should have tickled my prostate where I stood. What the fuck? No. If the stakes go that high, then it literally makes no point. No, it's like one village after another. No, the apocalyptic thing doesn't come until like the third season. So it doesn't make sense for us to skip each and every arc and each and every stake and just jump right to world-ending cataclysm or savior level. No, we do see it affecting Aang, by the way.
Yeah,
he refuses to go in the Avatar state and just cheese his way through the Fire Nation and for the sake of his affections toward Korra. So Katara, fuck you!
I got you on it too.
You messed it up for me, you piece of shit. All right, Jesus Christ!
I know. The rest of the day, I'm just gonna be thinking about Korra.
It literally makes no narrative sense. What you're saying, so I don't get it. What the fuck?
Well. What I mean by that is, not necessarily in the sense that it has to be plot related or it has to be apocalyptic, right? But just that the stakes for the character are higher, right?
We
So
see that though. We see that too.
one time we see that one
Not
time.
which time? Mm-hmm.
The time where he couldn't go into the avatar state, which is I think the highest or the peak of his stakes in terms of kind of Aang's relationship or how Aang's relationship affected him as a character. I think
What
was
about the episode where the general was trying to trigger the Avatar state and he succeeded? What were the stakes then?
in the that was
What about
season
the
2,
episode?
right?
What about the episode where Admiral Zhao or whatever the fuck his name was kidnapped Aang because he was trying to help his friends get better?
There was
Hmm?
Katara was sick during that,
Yeah,
wasn't she?
yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
if you know anything about Renaissance medicine and the fact that literally the only prescription that the Gilf, I guess, is what you might call her, gave Aang was that, yeah, you need to make him suckle on the frog dick. So it's like, the stakes were high then, though.
but he
They
was
were
doing
sick and
that.
dying.
He was doing that for both Sokka and Katara, though. Like, if it
Oh,
was just Sokka,
boo-hoo. Oh, boo-hoo.
so
Oh, he should have picked between Sokka and Katara. Oh, her brother should have died right then and there. Like, we should have cut off the character arc just so we could experience that angst.
angst comes
Yeah,
in the name.
I know. It the stakes are there. It's just not like the volcano episode with the soothsayer. Like, it happened so many times I can't even recall all of them.
Okay, so let me rephrase then. I think there are lots of plot instances where you can say that Aang has to choose or whatever between saving Katara over whatever X, Y, or Z, right? Now, I think it wasn't as clear what the character stakes were, right? So if we take, for example, the Avatar State one, right?
Listen,
And we think about what this means for Aang, right? Aang is a 12-year-old kid who has to take on this, middle-aged, super dictator, in order to save the entire world and future generations to come.
right.
And that's a pretty daunting thing for one character, right? If you just ignore the plot circumstances, if you take that, as is, right? A 12-year-old boy who has to defeat Fire Hitler, right? It's a little daunting, to say the least. And so when you have a relationship thrown in there, then the stakes get exponentially multiplied.
Oh my
right?
gosh.
And
wait
so,
a fucking minute. Okay. So you're telling me, right, that there was only one apocalyptic stake revolving around the love interest and not many. And you're telling me that the little things like, oh, their lives are in danger, oh, the city is gonna burn down, oh, they got kidnapped, those don't count? Is that what you're telling me?
I'm saying that the character, for each of the characters, it wasn't really clear how it affected them and their relationship, is what I'm saying.
Listen, I am sorry that I truly apologize from the apex of my heart that Aang's raging loins wasn't a part of the narrative foil that surrounded the end of the fucking world as we know it. But I am so fucking glad that wasn't the case, okay? Like, I'm so glad that they didn't use Aang's raging loins as a narrative foil to justify every single angsty action that he took.
Right.
All right?
And I agree.
Here's the fucking thing. They're a bunch of children with the fate of the world resting on their shoulders. All right? Not every stake is supposed to be a life-altering, world-ending, fucking stake.
Right. No, I agree. And I think I guess then
So
I wasn't
why are
clear
we
enough.
arguing?
I think what I'm trying to say is that if we take, for example, right, again, the Avatar state thing, right? We know that it's a high character stake, right? Not only is it a high plot stake, but it's a high character stake because it's about Aang overcoming his. It's essentially about Aang overcoming his fear, and it's about Aang. If we take a look at that Avatar state episode, it's about Aang's character trying to overcome his fears and anxieties about all the things that he's done in the past, right? And we see in the final seconds of the episode that he turns into this he finds that.
Okay, I'm back. There we go.
Great. Welcome back.
So yeah, you were saying?
I was saying, oh right, if we see in the Avatar state episode, right, it's plot-wise, we know that it's about Aang getting the Avatar state so he can defeat the Fire Lord. Character-wise, that episode is about Aang overcoming his anxieties and fears as a person, and therefore becoming a better person by becoming a better leader and being able to become essentially the leader that he needs to be for the people in his life, right? And we see in the final, moments of the episode, or in the towards the latter half of the episode, that he can't achieve being the leader that he needs to be because of Katara. I was about to say Korra again. Because of Katara.
God damn it.
And so that's a huge thing, for both plot-wise and character-wise. Plot-wise because he can't access the Avatar state, and character-wise because he can't be the leader that he needs to be. Now, that's a huge thing. If, for example, we take, say, the general example, right, where the general uses Katara in order to make Aang go into the Avatar state.
Right.
Now I can see that it plot-wise, it's so that Aang can get in the Avatar state. Character-wise, I can see that there could be a little bit of tension between Aang has to decide between do I want to unleash a raging fury, or do I want to sacrifice Katara for the sake of remaining civil or something, right? Which I get that's tension, right? Which which alludes to the Avatar state episode later in the season. But I think in the immediate moment, it's not as clear what the I think it's that instant is more so done as foreshadowing rather than a point where you can really see where Aang it's not as big of a character development for Aang as it is later in the season, which I think is where I have I guess a qualm with, because I think we could have at least experienced a little bit more of that maybe throughout the series, or maybe little moments like that where Katara might have some bearing, I think.
Gotcha.
But I do like for example, like instances like later on that season where we see Katara and Aang training again, right? And when Aang is trying to learn earthbending, we see some good small moments like that, which is really great. Which you can make the case for whether or not each of those instances is a character building moment. But I think just with a lot of the relationships, it felt I think I guess didn't have enough of those smaller moments, or didn't have enough of those moments where you could really get to see how it affects the character and not necessarily the plot.
Right.
Which is why I don't think Sokka and Suki.
Oh my!
I'm kidding. I'm kind of kidding.
Well, all right. Before we wrap up this episode, because I am tired of fixing up my internet every few minutes, and like my throat is getting pretty fucked. I'm just glad you aren't in charge of writing the Netflix adaptation for Avatar: The Last Airbender, because if you did, Zuko and Katara would have a child and Aang would be forced to kill it. All right. Yes. Anyway.
Precisely. And I would market it towards middle-aged mothers living in the suburbs. And then I'd throw in some vampires Throw in
Oh
some
yeah.
werewolves
Oh,
and make them firebend and whatnot, and it'll be
make
the
them
perfect.
fireband.
It'll
Make
be
him
the perfect show.
fireband. All right. So, thank you very much for listening. And I have to pee actually. So, would you like to wrap this up for me?
Sure, sure. With
Jeez.
that, thanks for listening.
I have consumed a monumental amount of water and tea this episode
I've
because
consumed.
you make me so mad.
I'm glad. That means I'm making you think. So I'm doing my job as a teacher, like we discussed, right? Because we're teachers, right? We teach. We're teaching,
The
right?
teacher. Fuck you. All right.
I just have one comment, Aaron. I did not like how your arguments were not in MLA format. I think I'm gonna take
I'm
off a couple
leaving.
points.
I'm leaving.
Uh,
I swear to God. All right. Thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions, you can submit them through the form that we have provided below.
yes.
And if you wish to contact us, our email is also in the description below. It's saveitforthepodcast with 2 T's at the end at gmail.com. No capital letters. And yeah.
Let us
If
know.
you
Let us
yeah.
know who you thought won either of the debates, even though the
Yeah,
first
if
one
it
wasn't
was
technically a debate.
yeah, let us know who won. If it was MLA format Aaron or Sakek Aaron.
Yeah.
So because those are the only 2 valid options.
And if it's neither of those, you can just choose Neiman because Neiman obviously was the superior debater. One
I
might say
see.
he's the
Right.
master debater.
I see we're going back to our ironic, untrue, comedic roots, Neiman,
Oh, really?
with
Really?
with the untrue statement of you being the winner. But
I have no idea
anyway,
what you're talking
thank you
about.
very much for listening, and we shall see you all next time.